The Albanese government has announced a major trade breakthrough with China after years of Beijing blocking the import of Australian goods. China has agreed to fast-track a review of bans on Australian barley, which has been largely banned from entering the country since 2020. In exchange, Australia will suspend its case at the World Trade Organization in the hope both barley and wine could soon be allowed back into China, with easing of restrictions on Australian beer, timber and seafood to follow.
I want to make clear that if this agreement is successful in providing a pathway for the lifting of duties on barley, the Australian government would expect a similar process to be followed in relation to the trade barriers which exist on Australian wine.
Beijing's actions against Australian products began in 2020 in the aftermath of the Morrison government's call for an investigation into the origins of coronavirus.
Something like $20 billion worth of Australian trade has been subject to impediments in terms of getting into the Chinese market.
Treasurer Jim Chalmers has told Sky News that the global environment is more challenging and complex than just a few months ago, as he prepares to jet off to Washington a month out from delivering the federal budget, which the Treasurer says will have electricity bill relief as one of its centrepieces. The explosion in the popularity of vaping and illicit tobacco is expected to drive a $5 billion hole in the budget, due to tax losses caused by collapsing sales of legal tobacco.
We've seen an explosion in vaping in particular, and that is incredibly concerning to me, not just as the country's treasurer, but as a parent and as an Australian. The status quo when it comes to vaping and smoking more broadly is completely unacceptable. This is a problem for the budget, but much, much more importantly than that, this is a problem for our society.
Look, Andrew Connell's having a lovely Easter break with his family this week, so filling in for him, very ably I'm sure, Sophie Ellsworth, media writer at The Australian, and our Sky News Brisbane Bureau Chief, Adam Walters. Sophie and Adam, thank you for joining me on Tuesday night. We just saw that big trade news there. Foreign Minister Penny Wong announced a pathway to resolve issues with barley and wine. Terrific. They'll also pause this dispute action at the World Trade Centre, or the World Trade Organisation, beg your pardon, WTO, with China. It's a good breakthrough, Adam. All credit to the government. I don't know that I would have dropped the WTO action without it actually getting the runs on the board, you know, getting the barley and the wine back into China. But this has been tough for our exporters, so hopefully it will come off.
It's like we had the white piece in the first move for chess, Peter. Those diplomatic tensions of 2020 seem like a distant memory. The Trade Minister, Don Farrell, is hoping China's removal of the barley tariff will be a template for resolving other areas in the trade dispute, including the tariffs on our exported wine. Now, between 2014 and 2019, our barley exports to China were valued around $1.2 billion. Now, the Grain Growers Organisation has been heartened by this breakthrough. The suspension of Australia's challenge to the WTO has obviously convinced China that the Albanese government is earnest in its intention to stabilise the relationship with what is, after all, our largest trading partner, Peter.